Hello, welcome to day 5 of working out at home for social distancing. I'm in Chiang Mai. I'm in the hotel that we've been in Chiang Mai for a little bit less than a month. And this is day 5 of my filming of my own workouts here at home and putting them up live so that people can join me, you can talk to me. I end up talking a lot about technique between the stuff that I'm doing just because I think about technique a lot while I'm doing this. But this is literally just me working out in the room that I rent. So this is not like a tutorial, this is not really a like instructional. I've gotten people who are asking me about like when you do the workout video. I'm literally working myself out. I'm not doing a workout video. So you guys are totally welcome to ask me questions, and if I can answer them and I see them, I'll answer them. But that's not what this is. This is not a like instructional on how to do a workout at home. Do the things that I've been doing in the past few days, or do the things that I'm doing today, or do your own thing. This is literally just a way to connect because we're all isolated in our separate rooms, but all facing kind of the same thing in the world right now. So that's my precursor to what this is if you're joining me for the first time. I've been doing high repetition because that's easy to do with no equipment and really anywhere. Today I think I want to do a lot more shadowboxing. I want to be more freestyle. I was kind of thinking to myself about this thing. I was filming with Crew Thailand, Chai, and he was showing me this thing about taking like one extra step in the clinch. So there's this thing, I'm a Muay Thai fighter, if you guys don't know. I do a lot of clinching. I win in the clinch. This is really kind of my specialty. And something that was really important about this one extra step is that as a Muay Thai fighter or as a clinch fighter, the entire game, like the entire thing that you're doing at all times in a fight, even though other things are going on, is that it's a battle over space. And when you're in really, really close range, you have to create space out of no space in order to have power on your strikes. You can't actually hurt someone from like super short distance, which is one of the reasons as a short fighter, I want to be cutting off someone's length all the time. I want to be getting too close for them to be able to really have power. But if I'm super close, that means I don't have power either. And so you have to create those spaces. And this thing that Crew Thailand was showing me about taking that extra step is something that I'm thinking a lot about. And I clearly have no clinch partners. I could clinch with Kevin, he's in the other room, but that wouldn't go well. And it's one of these things where I don't just want to like, oh, phooey, I can't work on that now because I don't have the resources or people around me or equipment or whatever the thing is. I don't want to be, you can be limited by your lack of partners or lack of equipment, but you don't want to be like locked out because of those things. So I'm actually going to be working on some things to do with clinch with 0 clinch partners here, which is something that I think is important for people to think about, because one of the reasons I'm live streaming my workouts is that in terms of like it's not a market for workouts really, because I think a lot of people are doing this for free and a lot of people are doing this for their gym members because we're all separated. Designing a like do this number of repetitions or do this or do that kind of thing, that's very good for people. It's something you can follow, it's something you can do in your room, and something that you can feel like you got your workout for the day. When I'm working out, I am trying to like do something to like keep my heart rate going and get energy going and not go completely insane being inside all the time. But for me, something that I really, really want to drive home to everyone who watches any of these videos, the most important thing for me, for people to understand in working out at home, is that you can improve. You can improve your technique, you can hone your technique, you can think about your technique, and you can actually get better technically without your trainers, without your training partners, without your equipment at home until we can all get back to our gyms. I think it's really, really important for people to understand that this is not a just like, I just have to do as many push-ups and sit-ups as I can until I can get to real training. You can have real training with nothing, with nobody. And I think it's really important for people to not only hear that, but believe that. It's totally true. So I'm gonna work on this like stepping thing. I'm gonna see if I'm actually talking to anybody. Hey, Caro. Definitely talking to Caro. Sawadika, Kru Boon. Boon is watching. Boon's gym is across the street, Lana Muay Thai. They shut down over a week ago, and Boon is actually doing videos in his apartment for his students, which is really cool. So if you look up the Lana Muay Thai, Boon Lana Muay Thai on Facebook, you can see what his workouts are. He was a fighter back there long before me, and now he owns it. It's very cool. So something that I'm working on is just this creating the space in order to throw your knees. So I'm trying to like keep all of my balance and my footwork. And if you're going to turn somebody, because in the clinch you really want to turn somebody first, something that Krunu's older brother, Pinot, who I miss very much, he passed away last year, something that he taught me in the very few times that we worked together was turn and knee and turn. Like you want this constant relationship between off balancing and landing your knees, and they can go in both order, but you're constantly off balancing with a turn, pushing whatever your opponent and landing a knee and then turn. So you're basically using the two to allow the next one to be easier. So same way that knees and elbows work together. If you're elbowing someone here, they're not thinking about what's going on down there, and then your knee's gonna land much better. If you knee them first, they're gonna do this like whack-a-mole thing of popping their head up, and then you can throw that elbow. It's the same thing with off balancing and kneeing. So right now I'm just messing around, I'm just playing around, and I'm trying to get a little bit of that like turn and knee into my imagining that I'm clinching with somebody. So I tend to take like a half frame up. So the thing that Crew Thailand was teaching me was that after you've ripped someone to the side, so their body's going to be kind of turned over like this. When you rip someone to the side, you want to step again outside of their stance. One more step in order to get that knee. If you step inside someone's stance, they can actually trip you while you're trying to knee them. And if you step outside, not only do you get more power, but you're not going to be tripped. So I'm doing basically isolated drills of doing that turn and just kind of getting the like muscle memory of taking that extra step. Because I don't have it yet. I don't do it automatically. When I was working with Yod Pan, he would have me do these turns out like this to knee somebody who you've now like kind of put their head down. And it's actually, it can be very hard. You know that when you turn, your leg needs to come back in order to have power, but a lot of people will just turn like this and then their leg is there and you have no power on it. So you have to get the like muscle memory feeling. You want to like wear the groove so that you're feeling that extra step. I step on my kicks when I kick the bag, but I don't do it against a pad man or in fights because I haven't worn the groove of that feeling in that context. So I'm trying to bring the feelings that I would have in an actual clinch partner situation into this context. So I'm like imagining where my opponent's feet would be, where their balance would be, like how deep over they would be. But I'm trying to get that extra step as an automatic thing. Actually feels pretty good. Actually kind of like you can also drag people straight back. So if you're dragging someone straight back, you're still going to want to step outside their stance. Just thinking about it myself. Dragging someone off the rope, if you're pulling straight back, you're still going to want to step outside to land those knees. Diesel Muay does this. Diesel Muay, when he lands any knee, he can land any knee he wants. He steps outside of someone the same way that you step outside when you're going to like throw a kick. He does that with his knees. He likes to step out, and then the knee follows this way, so it kind of like drags across. So things to think about to make this more interesting for yourself, but also to be broadening your vocabulary of technique, is that the movement with your feet is actually very similar whether if I have my hand on someone's neck and on their arm, and I'm going to pull their neck, I'm pulling, stepping and kneeing, but I can actually, hand on the neck, hand on the arm, I can also push like this. You can pull and push the head in the clinch. And so in my head, as I'm making these motions, the footwork is more or less the same, but I want to be aware of whether I'm pushing someone's head down and kneeing, or whether I'm pulling someone's head down and kneeing. Like in my head, I'm putting an actual opponent into this context so that I'm not just waltzing with myself around my living room, which I might do later, but that will not be a workout video. That'll be the quarantine isolation video. You can see that my body is kind of going like this. This is a problem. You actually want to be like super, super upright all the time in the clinch. One, because in Thailand, there's a hierarchy. The head is like the highest point of the body. It's like the most holy point of the body, and feet are kind of gross. You don't want to be like breaking your root is what they call it. So your root is like your kind of form. You don't want to be like hunching. If someone hits you and you're kind of like this, you look really impacted. If someone hits you and you stay like this, it's really good. So you want to be like very upright. Something that happens when you've made an effort and now you're really trying to like throw a knee is you're gonna kind of like bend your body away from or into the knee. You don't really want to be doing that. You want to be more or less upright. So that's just me catching a feeling in my technique that I'm now going to be aware of while I'm doing all the other things, just to try to stay more upright as I'm doing that secondary knee. You're just gonna feel it. That's all right. Let it happen, but then try to fix it on the next one. I like that. I like that step. Something I learned, I'm gonna do it. Nan, sawadee ka. So, Nan is watching. Nan is my clinching and sparring partner at Petron in Pattaya. I miss her like crazy. Kita magna. She would be who I'm playing with right now if I had a clinch partner. I don't have a clinch partner. I'm going to do a little bit of shadow boxing, and then I'm going to do some more repetitions to kind of get my heart going. But I am going to return to this clinching thing here. So I'm going to go with a little freestyle shadow boxing first. I do 4-minute rounds because that's what we do at my gym in Pattaya. So that's what I'm kind of used to. And I like it. It's twice as long as any round I would be doing in an actual fight. So it builds things up. But again, anytime you learn a technique, or anytime you're focusing on a technique, if you isolate it, sew it into what you do as quickly as possible to integrate it. You do not want to like only drill things. So I haven't been working on this particular footwork in this is day 5. I haven't been doing that at all. Because I just worked on it in a drill, now in my shadow boxing, I want to kind of integrate that into everything else that I'm doing in a freestyle form. This is how you improve your technique by yourself, is by learning how to feel things. Because how you feel something is going to indicate whether you do it or not. It totally determines whether it's something you do or not. actually was thinking about this. Sometimes when my trainer crew new is coming at me with pads, I've gotten better at this. When he's coming, I'll kind of parry off to the side and then lob my kick into his pads. It's the same thing as what I was doing in clinch, where you're stepping out and then you have to step again for the power of that side to come. So I realized just now while I was shadowboxing that when I do my like pivot off, I need that same step that I was just working on in my clinch practice in order to get that power moving that way. Cool awareness. Taught myself something. Hi, Pim. Pim's watching. Dewey Thomas. I'm like 5'2". Me too. I'm 5'1" and something. And just learned clinching and I love it, but man, it's hard to get a good feel for it when all the boys are bigger and taller. I agree. Everyone is bigger than me. The thing about clinch when you're short is that you just have different angles. Like someone who's taller than you, their angles are all going to be like kind of coming down this way. If you're shorter, your angles, you don't want to be like kind of climbing too much. You want your angles to be kind of like this constant like shifting thing like this. So when you're training clinch on your own, you want to be training that feeling of like kind of being able to waltz around people. Kevin and I just did a watch with me last night, which is a series that we do watching Golden Age fights and like completely geeking out over them. We do voiceover as we're watching them, and they're very like real-time reactions as we're watching. We're watching this fight between Sang Tien Noi, who is tall, long, big, really good knee fighter, and he's really good in the clinch. He's really good at actually being over people in the clinch and kind of creating these long angles. My trainer crew new is really good at the same thing because he's long and tall. Jamal Pett is like my size. He's not much taller than me. And they were not the same size when they fought, but you could see in this fight, Sang Tien Noi trying to use the angles and assets that he has as a clinch fighter. He has these amazingly well-timed rips where like he waits for the opponent's knee to be coming up and he just rips to the side. And he manages to rip Chimook Pet pretty good. I would be Chimook Pet being like ripped over to the side, but Chimook Pet went kind of low. And so he's just like stuck to him and he ends up kind of like riding the whip. And this is basically two different clinch styles using the height and angles that they have as advantages working against each other. And so when you're working on your clinch at home based on your anatomy and your style and strengths, you kind of want to think about like where are your angles and where is your stepping. So watch fighters who are your stature and see what they do and kind of imitate stuff off of that. Not everything they do is going to be something that you want to do. It's not a like cut and paste that if you're this body size you're going to want to do things like that. I as a small fighter don't really fight like a small fighter, and tall fighters don't always fight as tall fighters. It's kind of like a grab bag kind of thing, but it's, again, and I think I talked about this yesterday, it's the things that feel good to you are the things that you're actually going to do. And so working on that feeling is actually really important, especially when you have nobody telling you what to do, and so you can really mess around with it. Nick asks, do you train your southpaw side in shadowboxing? I do. I do much less of it now than I used to, but I was just recently working with Karhat and he had me switching stance in order to come down with this elbow because I was facing a southpaw opponent. I fight orthodox. My opponent's southpaw, which means that this is her open side, and so switching my stance to come into her open side like that, I end up in southpaw, and I'm not one to just immediately necessarily switch back to my other side all the time. So often when I was working with him earlier in the month before everything shut down, I would find myself in this position in the clinch. So I can elbow like this, I'm in southpaw in the clinch. I can elbow like this and kind of stay in it and throw things until you return back and go. Switching fighters like Karhat, like Samart, John Tong did it really well. They can fire from anywhere and it's really incredible, and that's the kind of thing that, like I'm talking about now with feeling, you have to train it in all of the ways that you train, whether it's shadowboxing, hitting the bag, pads, sparring, clinching, all of those things, because you can't just train it in one spot and have it like bleed into all those other things. You have to train it in all of those different contexts. I'm gonna do more shadowboxing. I'm not ready to do high reps at the moment. Today is kind of a like, I don't know, a take it as an improv flow day for me. So I'm gonna do some more shadowboxing and see what I teach myself out of that. I'm gonna integrate the clinching that I was doing into the shadowboxing so that it's not just like either you're striking or shadowboxing, but rather striking and shadowboxing kind of moving together, like in real life. I'm gonna make a note about how I go like this and I back up. I don't want to be doing that if I had more space. You do need to go backwards sometimes. You don't want to be like an only forward or only backwards fighter, but I don't want in my technique to be using space backing up as much as I'm actually using it in shadowboxing. The reason I'm using it so much here is the limit of my space, but I'm trying to be conscious of it. I'm trying to be in my head thinking of why I would be backing up if I need to create this much space in order to fire something with my opponent. So I'm creating a narrative in my head of what my opponent is doing that would make this movement make sense instead of backing up in order to create space to like get away from them or something. So like have a strategy behind why you're doing something. You don't have to have like reason or logic behind what you're doing. You want to feel it, but because I'm doing this, I don't want to be feeling it out of like I have to get away from my opponent. I want to be feeling coming this way in order to be pulling them so that I can fire something in my limited space. Two things that I just thought of. One is someone who just became a patron said that they've been watching these and they had a question about my fists while I'm shadowboxing, whether I clench my fists or squeeze my fists when I'm shadowboxing. I don't. I keep my hands very loose when I'm shadowboxing. When I'm hitting a bag, I'll squeeze at the last second before I make impact. But when I'm shadowboxing because of the kind of fighter I have and the kind of problems I have with tension, keeping everything really loose, like not making fists and kind of like trying to get looseness in the arm, is something that I've purposefully been working a lot on, which is why I don't make tight fists. I will eventually need to start integrating making those fists as I'm shadowboxing, because in the reality of a fight, I'm very tense. In the reality of a fight, I'm like this, and so my strikes need to be coming out of the body feeling that I literally actually have in a fight to train myself towards that. So I'm kind of like using these little, adding hot water to cold water in order to gradually raise the temperature kind of thing. So it's something that I purposefully don't make fists now, but I probably will end up making tight fists for that purpose somewhere along my progression, and then maybe we'll come back to this. It evolves and changes all the time. The other thing I wanted to mention about my going backwards, in the last 20 seconds of that shadowboxing, I was kind of picturing to myself my opponent coming towards me and me teeping them off. Something that I learned from Ajahn Surat, who trains the Thai national team. He has Dejrat Gym in Bangkok. He is incredible. He's in the Muay Thai Library. Definitely go check out his session, just because not only is he an amazing teacher with unbelievable decades of experience, but he also is just an incredible man. Like his personality is almost impossible to describe. You have to see it. It's so amazing. But when he's training people at his gym, he will have pairs where he's like, you're losing already, you have to come forward, you're winning already, defend. And so they'll just move together. And so you actually have to practice being in the lead and defending your lead, because in Thailand that's a very important thing. The 5th round is actually a huge deal in Thailand. And I think it's something that I wasn't really conscious of practicing until that moment, and that was probably only a year ago. So when I'm shadowboxing, at some point I can decide, because I have this narrative in my head that now I'm winning, and so then I might be going backwards a lot. Then I might be kind of putting myself in a situation where I'm not going to come forward, and I just have to work on the timing of blocking and keeping my opponent off of me. You have to practice your victory. You have to practice what that feels like. You have to practice how you're going to look cool doing it. I was just doing a voiceover of one of my fights, and I was coming out of the corner from an 8 count, and I actually had to teach myself and practice how to come out of the corner for an 8 count, because I used to do it like a total jerk. I used to look really dumb doing it. And so I had to practice what I wanted to look like coming out and how to keep the pressure on my opponent. Practice everything. Every single piece of what you do is a skill. How cool you look is a skill. How panicked you are is a skill. How cool in your heart you are is a skill. It's not just is your block coming up at the right angle. That's not what technique all is. Let's see if we have questions. Michelle, yes, I visualize someone in front of me when I'm shadowboxing. All right. I'm going to do 100 elbows and 100 knees, which I've been doing kind of just as a repetition burst, and to maybe get my heart rate going a little bit. I'm sweating, but I think it's just because it's hot more than that I'm getting my heart going. I get more out of breath because I talk so much, but I'm going to get those repetitions going. Michelle mentioned Ning. Ning is this word in Thai that kind of means like calm, serene, unmoved, unaffected, unbothered. Like if you've ever seen videos of like, I don't know, a dog that's super chill while a puppy's like biting at it or something, that dog's being real Ning. This is a quality that is very valued in Thailand across both genders, but it's a sign of masculinity in Thailand to be Ning, to like not be Jairon, which is like hot-headed or like easy to be upset. And if you can do that under the pressure of fighting, really good. This is a really good quality for Muay Thai fighters to be Ning. So as a short fighter and as a forward fighter, I'm going to be coming in and I'm going to be taking strikes on my way in. If I get hit and I'm like, so frustrated that I got hit, I'm going to bounce out, I'm going to try to come back in by showing my face like, oh, these points are working against me. None of that is Ning. Ning is if when you're hit, you just keep like, that didn't even touch me, it doesn't bother me. It's kind of like how I don't know, the Hulk would feel about like the bullets bouncing off of him. He's just gonna kind of walk through it. It's scary, it's cool, but it's like very calm. So the reason Michelle brought this up, I think, because she just asked about whether I visualize someone in front of me, is that I have to have Ning qualities in my visualization. So not only am I just like beating the shit out of somebody with my striking in my head while I'm visualizing, if I'm getting stuff taken, if I'm taking strikes as well in order to get in, which is very realistic for how a fight's going to go with me, I also have to practice and visualize my Ning on my way in. It's a very, very good point to bring up. Thank you for that. I'm going to shadow box more. Visualize that someone is on the ropes. This is the end of my space is here. So naturally I can make that the ropes, and so I can visualize what I'm going to do if my opponent's back is against the ropes, which if you fight in Thailand, you're going to face. Push. Ropes are bouncy, so you can push someone off of the ropes. Something Dang just had me working on is grabbing, pushing someone into the ropes, and then kneeing as they're bouncing off, but you're holding them in the clinch. It's a little bit hard to do in shadow, but it's not impossible. You can totally do it. Try to get out this way. Stop going that way. Try to go this way. That's if they're not on the ropes. If you have someone who's blocking you and they're on one leg, you can push them and land that. So that's what I'm doing there, in case you guys don't know this movement. Michelle, Terminator style. Yeah. Turk, I have no idea what you're talking about using your push kick as a front kick. Push kick, front kick, and teep are all one thing to me, so don't understand your question. Sorry. I'm going to do 100 more elbows, 100 more knees, and then maybe some blocks or something. Something that I was just doing just now is picturing as I come into the clinch, I have a tendency to come outside of someone's guard, which I'm trying to fix. You don't have to be inside all the time. There are totally moves from the outside that are really good. Elbows come from the outside are really good if you're controlling the elbow. But something that I want to work on, because I kind of habitually do this without it being something I'm intentionally doing, is that if I've caught from the outside, I want to swim in and elbow. So that's what I'm doing with my hand there, is I catch on the outside and then come up like that. Do some marching blocks, see if you guys have anything to say. Kevin giving a good answer. You guys can read that. Alright, so yesterday I was doing marching blocks and I was talking about how I want to be able to block going backwards instead of like just turning every time I reach the end of my limited space. Today, something that I want to think about while I'm doing my blocks is other things coming out of them. So I don't want to only be blocking, I want to be blocking and then having strikes available on the other side of that. And I want to think about kind of being able to snuff something that Ajahn Gimyu, who was an amazing trainer from the Golden Age, trained some of the best top fighters. He was Gansak's Clinch's trainer, he was Kurnu's trainer, he trained Lak Hin for the 3 fights that he fought Samson Hassan. Lak Hin is scary. He was like a very, very intense, powerful, punching, scary fighter. I think he was called the Thai Mike Tyson or something, and you'll totally see it if you watch the Patreon session with him. He's all about scaring and hurting his opponents. He did this thing that Ajahn Gimyu taught me, which is like using this front leg as kind of a deterrent to your opponent coming in. You can kind of keep them from kicking and things like this. So while I'm doing blocks like this, I also want to think about kind of working into that more of a standing my ground block instead of only a moving block and then my strikes coming out of that. It's a lot of talking to basically say that as I'm doing these marching knees, I'm thinking about lots of other things. I'm not just like counting out my knees to get through the number that I chose. All right. Kristen Philatonga, she was at my Muay Thai Summit. Not this past December, but the one before. Hey, Kristen. So, right at the end here. So I'm going to sign off. I do this work with Kevin that we don't put on the live stream, which is working on this block, this guard that I'm working on. So there's a little bit of a like working under cover of darkness thing that happens, which is like you don't have to be good at something the first time you do it, and you actually should expect to be bad at something the first time you do it. And then you have to use how you feel about being shitty at something to like guide yourself towards being really confident in it. A few days ago, I was talking about elbow sparring, which I do with my friend Caro, who is on the stream, and it's incredibly helpful. It comes from Yokunpan, and basically elbows are something that everyone is pretty shy about. Even people who throw a lot of elbows don't like taking elbows. Nobody likes it. But if you put yourself in that zone, in that discomfort, and you kind of like force yourself to sit in it like cold water, you can kind of acclimate yourself and put yourself at a huge advantage for when you actually go live with elbows and you're like, I'm comfortable here, I've been here before, and your opponent hasn't. So the thing about elbow sparring is you're staying incredibly close and you're hitting each other's guard. So you're not actually trying to hit each other's faces and heads. You're trying to hit the guard, but you're trying to kind of like knock through it and find timing and rhythm with it. That same concept is this thing that I do with Kevin, and it's this guard that I'm working on that I got from Gansak, which is kind of like this. You'll see it in boxing, in Western boxing. I think it's been called the log cabin defense. But I can flash into it and I'm really comfortable with it, but staying in it is really hard. I will not be staying in it for 10 minutes in a fight, but that's what I do with Kevin, is 10 minutes of just staying in this guard and feeling it as he's like hitting me, and I have to find my balance within it. So if you have a hard time kicking with your hands up, your hands always starburst when you kick, that's a balance issue. Your arms are starbursting because you have to balance yourself. So if you have the discipline to be super uncomfortable and let your kick be shitty while you're trying to figure out your balance and your comfort of keeping your guard while you're like throwing that knee or something instead of pulling it down, that's the like working under the cover of darkness until you can unveil it in the comfort of like, my hands don't have to go anywhere. Something that Chumok Pet taught me in our most recent session for the Muay Thai Library. He has 2 sessions in there, and the one that we just put up, he's talking about how your arms have nothing to do with what you're trying to do with your lower body with knees or kicks. So you don't need them to go anywhere. He doesn't drive his arm when he's like throwing a knee, and his knees were fucking incredible. Sorry. He's like, keep it up because someone's going to be trying to hit you. So basically he learned how to be balanced and comfortable keeping his guard exactly here. Like if you're going to be kneeing someone, they're going to be trying to punch and elbow you. That's the range that they have to counter you. So if you leave that here, you're protected, boom, and going at the same time. So anytime I'm working on my offense, I try to also drill in the feeling of the defense with it. And that's what I'm going to do with Kevin. Eventually we'll show this to you guys, but I have kind of an attitude about doing 10 minutes of it, so we'll wait until I'm a little bit less of a brat about it. But I'm still doing the work, it's still good. He'll come out and work with me in a couple of minutes. Thank you guys for watching these streams. Thank you for my patrons who help me be here and who keep me inspired to just put this stuff out there. I've been documenting myself since day 1 of training with Master K. It wasn't actually documenting me, I was trying to document Master K because he was teaching me so much that I could not remember it when I would go home for the next week and work on it until I could see him again. But I've kind of like grown up in front of the camera and it's very weird for me that that's the case because I'm actually an incredibly shy person. This is something that's very valuable to me, that you guys are watching this and that you guys also find this valuable, because I feel like ultimately what I've been trying to do in sharing so much is share as much as possible about how incredible my access has been to all of this information. And I don't feel like a collector. Like a collector's heart is to like, only me, like only I get to see this. You keep it like in your dragon's lair. I feel very much like an obligation to share these things with as many people as possible, and it just totally makes me excited that you guys also see its value and that you guys also are inspired by it and that you guys also are like, I learned so much. I had someone sign up for Patreon 2 days ago and they're like, I have learned so much in 2 days. And it made me so excited because 1, that's already like sticking your hands into all of this stuff that I get really excited about it. But in 2 days, you haven't even scratched the surface of what there is to see. There's more than 90 hours of long form training video in there. And every time I come here and like blah, blah, you guys between what I'm doing to explain like how I'm thinking about a technique, all of that comes from these incredible teachers and fighters and people in my life who I've had access to. And so bringing that to you and having you guys be like, that's exciting, I'm way into that also, fills my grinchy little heart the way it like grew 3 sizes when he finally realized the love of Christmas or whatever. So that's cool for me, and thank you guys, everyone who's been commenting and who's been getting into this material, and thank you so much to the sponsors and patrons who make it possible, because they also allow this kind of material to be free for everybody. So it's kind of this like all different ways to access it, which is really cool. So thank you guys again. You made me feel better. I was having kind of a really, really hard day today, and I feel actually much better right now. I might cry anyway, but I feel good. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, and stay safe, take care of each other, take care of yourself, and use this time to improve. You can always, always, always get better every single second. It's true.